being in business for a long time, owning multiple clinics, managing, multiple employees and associates, I learned that when you're cruising, you got to have your head up. So never be cocky, have systems and people in place that got my back, literally, as a chiropractor, so that I can rely on them.
Part of my mission is actually to change perception of people around sales process, because I think many people have bias towards it, a negative bias towards it, while I'm trying to say, actually, sales is everywhere. Great
sales is effective communication. No-brainer sales is connection plus communication. The business trick is that whatever you're in, if Google reviews makes any difference, you got to ask for them from genuine, satisfied clients. It's not the satisfied client that refers, it's the excited client that will refer to you.
Hello, everyone. This is Annanesterova, and welcome to my podcast. My podcast features personal and professional growth stories of successful people. And today, my guest is Dr. Alan Chong. He's a practicing chiropractor, a business owner, and also a host of Practice Mastery podcast. Dr. Chong has experience of 36 or maybe over years in this field, and he's running his business for a long time as well. And I'm curious to learn about his personal and professional journey. And I'm really happy to have you on my podcast, Dr. Chong. Can I call you Alan?
Yes, of course. Yes, you can call me Alan. Yeah, for sure.
Hi,
Anna, very pleased to be on your show. It's a privilege. Thank you very much for the invitation.
Well, Alan, I think we should just jump right into it, because I think what we want to achieve here today is just to go through your story, how you ended up being a chiropractor, being a business owner. And I would like to know where did you grow up? Where do you go to school? And how you ended up in this, this interesting career.
Okay, sure. I'm a practicing chiropractor, as you announced, but I didn't always want to be a chiropractor, because honestly, till I was in first year college, I didn't really know much about chiropractic. I grew up in a small town in British Columbia, Canada, and there were chiropractors around. There were optometrists and such. But, again, until I had a severe back problem, I played first year college, 1 year of college volleyball, and my back killed me all the time. So I went to the local chiropractor that came recommended, and I wasn't, this may sound funny. I was not impressed by the results so much. I was impressed by the practice of chiropractic. I thought, oh, this is a really kind of neat profession. They do x-rays and, analyze the spine and do adjustments, and I'm supposed to feel better. Well, I was playing high-level volleyball at the time, so my back just killed me. So I don't think anybody could help me in retrospect. So I started to explore the path of chiropractic as a possibility. I have to tell you a funny story. We are a product of where we are, our environment. I mean, that's not new news. But when I was a little kid, I wanted to be a truck driver, because the big trucks, at least that's what I told people. I wanted to be a truck driver because that seemed like the cool thing to do as a kid, and there the example lies in, we are a product of our environment. It's no problems with truck drivers, but as I got older, I knew I wanted to help people. That's the number one thing. I knew I had that kind of nature to want to reach out and help people. I just didn't know what. I thought I'd be a psychologist. True story. I took first year psych, and there's no friggin' way I was going to be a psychologist after first year psych. So then I got into chiropractic, and the rest is history. That's 36 plus years. Next month is 36 years of practice.
Yeah. And one thing to mention to the audience is that you have that name, the spine doctor. And
yes.
Where did that come from?
Well, it's self-branded because I own two practices and a specialty clinic, Calgary Spinal Decompression, within my bigger clinic. And at the time, I branded myself because I was taking online courses and actual seminars on marketing and branding. And I was taught that it's important to have a brand name and a moniker. So after study, I decided on the Spine Doctor. And so in certain social media and certain online settings, I'm branded as the Spine Doctor. Can't hurt.
Oh, for sure. And I think that's a very valuable lesson from the business perspective too. Because even though you have a clinical practice, but eventually you're running the business, right? So ultimately that's your goal, to have that brand, to have that presence so people know who you are. I think it's really powerful.
Oh, for sure. And something a little bit of branding that I did not know. There's your brand and branding are two different things. And, most people think of brand as, okay, my logo right behind here, if you're watching in video, shows Practice Mastery Podcast. And I love the logo, and that's branding, but it's not my brand. My brand is genuine, heart-centered business, coaching and mentoring and podcast. That's my Practice Mastery brand. My Calgary Spinal Decompression, my personal brand, is you probably know, many listeners know, is all about what I'm made of as a person, a person of integrity, love helping people, et cetera, et cetera. But so many people confuse branding with their brand. And so my encouragement to listeners is to start defining that stuff separately, because the strength of your brand is your reputation. So don't ever compromise your reputation.
That's very powerful. And I think it's so true. And thank you for sharing that. And I think that would be a great thing to cover when we go deeper in the business section of our conversation, I think. But before that, can I ask you a couple of things here?
Of course.
You shared that you grew up in BC and now you're practicing in Alberta.
Right.
So you're running a Canadian business, because I know part of my audience, they're not from Canada, but it's important to mention that you are practicing in Canada. But many things that we're going to cover, they can be applicable to so many different businesses and so many different practices. But I'd like to learn from you, how did you make those decisions? Like you said, you tried psych, you didn't like it, then you were discovering new opportunities for yourself to channel that desire to help people. I guess where I'm going with it is, how did your journey, self-development journey, happen, and what did you learn from it? What were the key lessons that you learned from that path when you went through that adversity, when you had the injury, when you found something new, exciting, but you didn't know how to enter that field? I mean, the chiropractor's world. So I just want to learn a little bit more about that.
For sure. That's an extensive question, so I'll try to break it down, chunk it down. For one, this may sound weird, but I did not know for sure that chiropractic was right for me, in the sense of the right profession for me. For one, I knew something about it, but I didn't know. It wasn't like I grew up, I want to be a chiropractor. None of my parents or relatives were chiropractors. So it was really a relatively foreign profession to me. So it wasn't until I got accepted, and I'll backstep a little bit. Like, as listeners, how do you know what to do? How do you know where to go in life? It's a big, huge question. I didn't know for sure I was meant to be. Some people believe that they were meant to do this, and that's great. I didn't know that that I was meant to be a chiropractor. So one of the clues is in life, I'll share some wisdom here, is that not always, but most of the time, you've got to move in some direction. And one of my mentors, Mike Dooley, Notes from the Universe, millions and millions and millions of followers out there, says, thoughts become things. And I'm a firm believer of that. And that was part of my self-development. And this is long after I became a chiropractor. Mike Dooley has been throwing out, so probably for about 20 plus years, throwing out notes from the universe. And they're just little bits of wisdom about, hey, you got your back, and that the universe, thoughts become things. What you think about starts to manifest. So thinking about being a chiropractor, well, I had to act on that by applying for chiropractic, even though I thought there's no way I'm going to get in. Well, I actually got an interview, and that interview went very, very well. Mm-hmm. And then I thought, okay, well, I have to have the marks. I had reasonable marks, but I had to have all the prerequisites. And I still remember the year that I was in a dilemma because I was short one prerequisite. Okay. Organic chemistry. Gotta love organic chemistry, you pharma people, right? Oh, yuck. I hated it. So I had to make this hard decision to take the course or spend take another year off, because this particular university or Canadian Memorial Chiropractic College only had one sitting per year, and that was September. So if I missed that, I had to wait till the next year. So I made the hard decision to wait a year. And I still believe that was the right decision for a whole bunch of reasons. I got into the college. I got a provisional acceptance. I deferred that acceptance, and then I went in. It wasn't till the first full semester that I finished finals that I knew, yeah, this is what I want to do. I'm going to finish, because some people don't. And that's, we got to be okay with going in a certain direction and not becoming a lawyer because someone told us we should be a lawyer, and you can't stand the path all along the way. I mean, have you heard of the story where, someone's 6 months away from getting their accreditation or whatever it is, their credentials, and they drop out of school?
Yep.
Now, if I was a parent, I wouldn't necessarily recommend that. However, it's your own life journey. And so many things in life are like that, but you've got to move in the direction of hopefully wholesome, good thoughts so thoughts become things, but along the way, there's the thoughts, the intentions, setting the intentions, putting things into motion with actions, and then seeing which doors open and seeing which doors close. And just because all the doors seem to close doesn't mean that's not your path. It's the hero's journey. We all go through many hero's journeys in life. And so I encourage you, if you're struggling with something, for one, ask for someone who is truly loving and caring for help, and ask a mentor. Surround yourself with quality mentors, right? So there's my quick summary of your question there.
That's a great summary. Very useful, I think, and very inspirational. How do you search for mentors? What was your journey with that?
Well, it's curious is Mike Dooley, I can say, is still to this day one of my mentors, even though he's not a friend. I've only met him a couple times on his speaker circuit, have engaged in his material, but I still consider him a mentor. So a mentor doesn't have to be someone that you tangibly can connect with. It could be by reading their content. It could be you, Anna. You are a mentor to some, I'm sure. And as you're developing this podcast, as I have mine, some people are listening, and I don't know if in general, I don't have feedback, right? So some of them may, one or two might consider me a mentor, and I don't even know them. And that's a privileged position. But what defines a mentor in my understanding is that you are working with somebody, not coaching. There's a difference there. Coaching, whether it be paid or like clients like some of mine, and I accept very few clients. But mentoring, I accept more mentors because sometimes I don't have a choice either, But what defines a mentor is that you're supplying experiences and information that is useful for that person's either personal and or professional or life development. What makes a good mentor is someone who's willing to give some time, effort, and knowledge and wisdom to someone else who is not necessarily junior to them, but with less experience in the particular area. So really anybody can be a mentor, and certainly tangibly be a mentor. I think that's what makes professions and go around, is when you have a good quality mentorship, informal or formal relationship with people that are willing to be your mentors. And if you don't ask, you don't get.
That's 100% true. 100% agree with that. And I love that concept about mentorship. So you're right, because I think many people have that notion you need to know someone, sit down with someone, but it doesn't have to be that. And I think mentorship in general helps, me, and I'm sure other people going through some setbacks in life.
For sure. And definitely. Even the crazy thing is mentorship and coaching are even more important when you're just cruising. Mm-hmm. Whether it be money or success or whatever it is, that's when you actually need to rely on people that can keep you in check. Right?
I agree with that for sure. Yeah, because we all get into those moments, right? The cruising moments. I love that. Yes,
for sure.
Well, I don't love the state of cruising, but I love the results of cruising. I think the results at the end.
Yes, and it's okay to cruise, but correct. Being in business for a long time, owning multiple clinics, managing, multiple employees.
Institute of Chiropractic Institute in
Canadian Memorial Chiropractic College. Yeah, still to this day, the only English-speaking chiropractic college in Canada.
Wow, I actually didn't know that.
Yeah, most people don't know.
Yeah. So is it the normal journey for a chiropractor to start their own clinic, or they usually go and work for someone else first and then so how does it work usually for chiropractors?
Well, depends on the era. If I was to give, if there's associate practitioners out there or soon to graduate students, I love teaching and mentoring those groups of people, because hopefully you're very willing to learn about the business world and what to expect. I don't think there's a set rule, but my observation, Anna, is, for example, when I first graduated even before I graduated from college, and just around that time, that first year of college, I decided to do locums for several months. But I was approached by two practitioners to buy out two clinics at the time. That's unheard of now. For one, they're very expensive. And so I found myself within 1 year of graduation, a little over 1 year, I owned two clinics in the city here in Calgary, Canada. And so virtually that's unheard of now. For one, the amount of student debt that people come out with. Number two is that even if you're well financed, it's quite a thing to manage two clinics, never mind, to run them as well as to staff them and to work them and have them successful. So I just happen to have a really good business sense for most of my life. That's a good thing. What I've observed over time, and even now we're hiring an associate chiropractor, is why not be an associate? I mean, my legacy, I plan to drop down out of ownership one day to be an associate if I still want to practice, because it can be the best of a number of worlds. And now, of course, we hear certainly in the medical fields and veterinary and a number of fields where large groups are buying out clinic groups. They're forming clinic groups, right? So that's a huge other issue for another podcast, I think. But my general advice is to think twice about you actually wanting to own, unless you have already in a working relationship where you fully know how the clinic runs and have, maybe have the exact right succession plan of the practitioner leaving or selling out. Otherwise, you got to think, what's the value in buying in? Because, there's a lot of responsibility and there's a lot of financial potential risk. Rent doesn't go away. Okay. And I don't know what rent is like in LA, but
Yeah,
I've heard it's rather high. And so
very high.
wherever you're
Yeah.
listening, I perceive that it's a little easier in smaller rural communities where the need for practitioners is higher and costs tend to be lower. But again, this is where you need to hire a professional or do some of your research and see which doors open, see which doors close, just like I said before.
Yeah. Well, from what I heard, first of all, I think it's an extremely bold move to actually start business in such an early stage of your career and have that confidence to go for it and being able to actually pull it off. So I think it's a very impressive story. And second of all, what you just shared, I think it can be applicable to so many other businesses. It doesn't have to be clinical. It's what you just said, described. It definitely puts people into a position of, okay, you need to think through, is it your path or not? Because like you said, it's one thing to be a practitioner and a second thing to be a business owner. Running a business is a totally different story.
Totally true.
Having the resources, having the energy, having the, I guess, abilities and skills, or learn those skills. I think that all takes time and development. So actually, that's something I would like to learn from you here. So how did you develop those skills? So here you are a year after you graduated, you got that amazing deal, which is obviously impossible now, most likely.
Well, in retrospect, for sure, and be solicited, kind of handpicked by one of the practices, which we rebranded, and that practice, it's a wonderful joy to look after as a patient. For example, the patient that's been with me the longest is probably 30 plus years. And that is an honor and a privilege if you're a practitioner of any type or in business and have a client that sticks around that long. Must be doing something right. But to answer the question about, some people just are good at business. That. I think you're good at business. You're entrepreneurial in sense of Anna creating a podcast. That's a bold move right there. And then sharing it with, I don't know if you're actively coaching right now, but that's a business on the side. And I applaud you for that. Not easy to do. You don't have to be the expert, have 5 books behind you to help someone else succeed, right? You don't have to have any books behind you. And even the letters behind your name don't necessarily matter in most cases of being able to help other people. So, one of the things that is hard work, obviously, being willing to be hardworking and having that work ethic. And I grew up that way, of course. Small towns kind of help that. The second thing is, I demonstrated that it doesn't matter to this day, but it still bugs me that I was like 1.4% away from graduating with honors. And I worked 3 part-time jobs when I was in chiropractic college. I just made it work. So you might ask, well, when did you sleep? Well, yes, during exam time. Yeah, it was the joke used to be that a hot shower equaled 1 hour of sleep. So, if you can't sleep, just keep on having showers, and so
keep going.
But yeah, exactly. So this is one of the things that can be developed, though. Hardworking can be developed. You don't have to say, well, I'm not a hard worker. Well, if you keep on saying that, yeah, I believe you. You're not a hard worker. But if you say, I am trying to work harder, I am a hard worker, I'm striving to work like one of my mentors. Now, that doesn't necessarily, I say to my kids all the time who are just graduating from university, is work smarter, not harder, right? And but there is a combination of doing both, because I don't care how smart AI is, it's still not going to replace your brain. Right. And we got to believe that to be true and know that to be true, even though, people can debate that forever, probably. So hard work is number one. Also the belief that you can attract opportunities and you will attract opportunities to do that, you've got to be willing to open some doors or try to open some doors. If you don't try any doors, then you're not even going to see that there's a door there, right? Yep. So that's the curious thing is that, and what does that come down to? I believe it comes down to mental attitude. So if your intention, your attitude, and nowadays I've learned to strengthen my mind through daily meditation. And I think I'm on like day 125 today of 10-minute meditations every single morning. That's just my ritual. Now, when I miss one, of course, I'm back down to one, right? So I don't want to miss one. Have I missed one before? Yes. But that's an example of developing mental fortitude. Obviously it takes some intention and maturity, but these are all things that you as listeners can do. Like we can do these things, but we might need a little bit of teaching or mentoring or search in the right directions, to know what's out there. But these are things that will develop your mind to be stronger so that you can handle those tough situations and not break down. And the one word that I've been learning this past year is resilience. For this past couple of years being really difficult, we won't name names about what happened, but we all know that some people developed extremely high resilience and became much more resilient from it. Others fell apart, right? And it's sad. And what is the difference? I don't know. I remember I didn't pursue the psychologist path, right?
So didn't get to that chapter.
I didn't get to that chapter. I declined. Right. But resilience is a key word that, you can work on. We can work on. I work on it every day. It's the good times, the bad times, and everything in between that will develop resilience. Part of it, you have to pay attention to what's going on and, again, open doors or try to open doors, go in a direction that you think you should be going. And then don't be so proud to change your mind, right? That's a hard thing. Some people are resistant. Nope. I wouldn't change a single thing in my life. At the end of my life, I hope I don't say that. If I am, I probably have dementia, because if I say I wouldn't change a single thing in my life, I'd be lying.
That's actually very honest revelation, in my opinion. Because I think we all tend to think, well, I think everything that I do is perfect. Oh, not perfect, but I mean, in a hindsight, like you look at it, like, you know what, everything I've done was right. But it's an interesting angle that you were taking here.
Well, I think it's a healthy angle, to be able to, what I'm referring to is the ability to objectively introspect, right?
Yes. Okay.
And not to be self-deprecating or anything. That's not the purpose of it, is to be real and say, you listen to some of the best athletes in the world and they're superstars, right? But they're always still saying, you know what, that wasn't a great shot. Like we're watching NHL hockey, right? I am, and following that some. And, some of the best players in the world are going, you know what, wish I would have done that differently, but still scored the goal, or we won that game, but it wasn't a good game. And it's like, oh my goodness, really? So, that's the ability to objectively say that, yeah, that was good effort, maybe not a good effort. That was a terrible effort. I happened to win, but that was a terrible effort, and to do things differently. And I'll tell you, when my team is watching me, right? And so over the years, the wisdom is that I've softened. And so if you're a manager of any type, is to do more listening than talking. That's a really tough one, right? And do much more listening than talking, and then ask for, you got to humble yourself sometimes and ask, like, what do you think I should do or we should do?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. To me, that's a sign of also self reflection, and also taking that responsibility for your own actions. And obviously, if you are responsible for a team of people, also being able to, I guess, own the responsibility and own certain mistakes in front of them, because I feel like many people, they are scared, or maybe they're not even thinking that way. They just think that what they know is the only way, and that's the only path. And I
For
think
sure.
where you're talking about is just being able to reflect and say, you know what, maybe that's not the only way, and that's okay. And
Right.
everyone can make mistakes.
This is a really, you just made me think of something, Anna. Thank you. That made me think of a lesson I learned and still holds to be true. Whatever industry you're in, if you're a manager or not, but particularly for managers, if you have a grievance or a bitching about something, please don't do it to the people that you're managing. Because your job is to complain to your superiors and your equals. The reason is because it's not for show purposes, but you need to go higher if you can't solve the problems, right? And so it's just kind of an unwritten rule that should be rewritten, that because too much we hear gossip and complaining at the levels that really shouldn't be hearing it. And it destroys a team potentially, right?
Yeah.
So that's where also you use your professional coaches and mentors, is to complain and say, or lose it,
Yeah.
because they're paid or volunteering to help you despite and care for you despite what you're going through. And even though they think you're an idiot for making that decision, guess who's going to tell you? You don't want your subordinates telling you you're an idiot.
Yeah. I actually like that. I don't think I've ever heard that before, but I like that.
It's something I learned the hard way, because you don't start bitching to your whole team, because then the whole team thinks the whole team is falling apart.
And the spirit goes down. I can envision that.
Yeah, exactly. And so both the sense of, all those things. Anyways, I don't want to harp on that, but a little tip there for
sure. Like I said, it's noted on my end for sure. And how do you balance the demands of running a business, because you have obviously service-based business, and also the quality of care that you provide to your patients? Because I think that's an interesting balance to have.
Oh my goodness. Yes. For one, the summary statement is that life and practice are no different. I used to try to segregate them, but practice is your life and your life is your practice. And if your practice is as a farm rep or a product rep, that's your life for a good part of the day. But there really is that, there's different roles in different parts of your life. I'm not saying don't separate those, but really I've learned when I first graduated, the tendency, it was clear. We trained in a lab coat. I wore a lab jacket. No chiropractors wear lab jackets anymore. Most MDs in their clinical practice don't wear a white coat anymore, unless they're a specialist or whatever. I know that's true in Canada, like the family practitioners and stuff, they don't wear, you call on a whole bunch of those. Now, if they're in a, professor sort of thing and they got their name embroidered on there, whatever, that's different. So, but in the institutions, I get that they have name tags and such, but for the most part, private practice, which I'm in, we don't wear lab jackets. But it took me a while to get over that I'm the doctor. Okay, listen to me. So now I've totally softened to the degree where I definitely don't wear a lab jacket. I haven't worn one for a long, long time. And then also to be more genuine, not to share my deepest, I'm going meeting some buddies after work today, not that type of thing, but to be more real so that they get to know me a little bit as a longstanding, client of mine, and to be more transparent in a human way. I guess the thing is I'm much more human now, because I have no reason to put up this front that I'm the doctor and you're the patient, so just do what I say, right?
I like that. And I think you're right. So being more personable definitely changes the perception of patients, and maybe that removes the fear factor sometimes. And I think that can allow you to build some trust, or anyone who's listening to us in any service business. I think it's very important. That's the trend overall that I see as well.
Yeah, exactly, Anna. And I think and from client to doctor relationships, it's developing is whatever time that you have or interactions, engagements, that they be, the more real they are, the more trust is established, obviously, right?
Yeah.
So that goes hand in hand, and in this digital world, we've lost a lot of that. So we actually have to make an extra effort to develop that trust and get that engagement, right, at whatever level.
Yeah. No, I find it's very interesting. I actually have more questions here, and I would love to learn from your experience. Well, you know that I talk quite a bit about sales in general, because part of my role, what I've been doing for the last 10 years, has been involving sales in medical device field. And part of my mission is actually to change perception of people around sales process, because I think many people have bias towards it, a negative bias towards it, while I'm trying to say, actually, sales is everywhere. And especially if you're running a business, sales will be part of it, no matter which part of the business. If you are the owner or you're just participating in the process, sales will be there at some level, one way or another. And I think what I would like to hear from you is how to learn that skill without compromising your main function in your practice, because your main function is to help people, to make people feel better, help them with their health. But at the same time, from the perspective of the business, sales is what is driving that business forward. And branding is part of it. Communication is part of it. What you just described, being personable and being approachable, that's part of it. So I'd like to learn, how did you, how did you find your own way? What was your journey to come up with it? Or maybe you already felt that way before. When you started the business, you were ready for it. Because some people are not ready for it. Some people that I talk to, they are scared. They say, oh, I will never need to sell in my life. I'm like, I don't think so. It's not about I'm not trying to say everyone needs to become a salesperson. I'm trying to tell everyone that it's a skill that you need to know one way or another. So I'm curious to know, what was your experience with that?
Well, you have these very complex questions. I'm
sorry. I guess I'll have to break it down. So
no. I'll get it. So let me hit that on a couple points. For one, I firmly believe that sales is communication.
Yes.
Great sales is effective communication. And, no-brainer sales is connection plus communication. So I, in Canada, and especially being a chiropractor, we've had to sell the reason why a person should even come to see a chiropractor. And we still literally have to sell the idea because most people, I say we're probably the most poorly understood mainstream profession around, because everybody seems to have an opinion about chiropractic, and it seems like about 40 to 50% is relatively or very negative. And there's a huge medical bias. We're not going to go into that. So you understand the hurdle of, say, whatever your profession, say you're selling something that's kind of new to the market, or it's a disruptor technology or device. So how do I overcome that? Let me just share that in my clinic, Calgary Spinal Decompression Center. Number one is being able to communicate something to the public, for example, online. I'll give you an example. Most of the time it's an effective website post, series of communications with your ideal clients. And ideally they contact us. We do not do any paid advertising, and we sell $4,500, $5,000 to $5,000 programs with Calgary spinal decompression, because that's what they need to be effective. Now, do we sit there and pitch it? No, because I do a consultation, and in good faith and in good conscience, I say, you know what? You're here in the right place because I can help you. I do not say that to everybody. That would be pure sales. If I said to every single person that crossed my path that, oh yeah, you need this and it's how much it's going to cost. No, let's talk about why you need it first. So that's kind of old fashioned sales. But if the person is already somewhat or very qualified for your product, they're halfway to trying your product at least, right? Yep. Trying your product, and depending on what it is, they might sign on fully if you get that engagement and trust to the degree where I actually need that product. I was actually looking for that product, and you meet my need, and you seem very professional. And where do I sign? I mean, that would be the dream. Now, what just occurred? It was an amount of trust, engagement, and communication to effectively meet their needs. So, like I say, certainly in a when healthcare is a business, because it is, except with some exceptions of publicly funded, et cetera, et cetera. But as a private practice, we run a business. We have to be profitable, and to be able to communicate to the degree where the patient will actually follow their treatment program, and you get, as a practitioner, get paid for it, or you as the sales rep follow through and create an effective sales stream or contract or whatever it is, that helps you get paid and the company that you work for get paid, and for them to be profitable. So business should always be win-win. And so if you keep that in mind, then it starts with effective communication and relationship building. And some products and services, depending on how much competition, require more of that, nurturing the client, et cetera, before a sale. And some, like in my clinic, when they come for a consultation, if I can help them, I offer them that. And, a certain percentage say yes. Others say, thank you very much, doc. At least they got my opinion. And that's the fourth thing I would say is always offer value to them, right? Always offer value. If you didn't offer any value, why should they purchase anything else from you, right? In fact, that was useless. That was a waste of my time. Are you going to buy from the person who just totally wasted your time trying to sell you? Probably not.
But that's why rule number one, qualify. You should not try to sell something to someone who doesn't need your product. You need to qualify. And what you just described, again, what you're sharing right now, I know we were talking about your specific business, but I think it's applicable to so many other industries and areas. It's just a general rule. Like and especially for business owners or people who are thinking of running a business, I think it's essential to understand that, and essential to be comfortable with that. And this is where, at least I find, that people feel a bit more, resistant and cautious. And I don't know why. I don't know what it is that made people think that selling is a bad thing, because I think we all do that.
I think I don't think it's a bad thing if you truly believe in your heart that you're offering something of value, whether it be a widget or a medical device, right? Yes. Or a pharmaceutical. If you truly believe that it adds value to your client and society, then, so therefore, we have to be educated on what we're promoting, right? And so there's all these steps, and I'm sure you're more of an expert because you're more formally trained in sales, if you will. Whereas, I've done a whole bunch of online marketing and branding, education and such, and like I say, certain aspects of communication, I'm just a natural at it. But in my practice, we don't even think about it as selling. We are communicating to those who we feel we can genuinely help, and we offer to help them. And so a very key part of the sales process is making an offer. And sometimes you have to make that offer 5 or more times, even in the same sales conversation or pitch. Because if you don't have a call for action, a lot of people, well, thanks for meeting with me. Hey, thanks for the coffee or whatever it was, or lunch for my staff. See you later, because they didn't know what the call to action was.
Yes, true. 100%. Well, I everything that you said, like, again, it's applicable to so many different areas, and I'm really happy that we're having this discussion. I guess I have a couple more things to touch on in terms of your story. So when you embarked upon this business journey, that you started your company and now you own, how many clinics do you have right now?
Well, the 3 clinics. One is a clinic within a clinic, so it's a non-surgical spine center. So now that's a whole branding exercise, and I had to define that within a clinic, and I had to decide that that's what I want to do. So that's probably the best example of what I think you're leading to is. So I chose to get into this area of non-surgical spinal decompression therapy. And that was a big investment. There was a big equipment investment and knowledge, learning investment. And I essentially changed my practice because, honestly, for a while there, I was bored in practice. So I needed something. And now we are one of the top clinics in the Calgary region for non-surgical type work that we do. And like I say, we do not do paid advertising.
Wow. Yeah. So that's what I was going to ask you about. How did you make those changes? Obviously, you built your own brand now, and you found that niche, and you are serving that niche very well. And I think it's very impressive what you've accomplished, considering the history what you just shared, right? In terms of how chiropractic practice in general, it's not as mainstream as we wish it could be. Because I'm aware, because I came from a very different educational background where I grew up. So I know what chiropractors are and how valuable that practice is. And yet I found that North America is a little bit behind, especially Canada, I find that in terms of getting it on a mainstream level. Anyways, the point is making those decisions and learning along the way. I think that's what I find quite fascinating. And that is something that I would take on, and maybe my listeners, in terms of how to start from one idea and then grow and pivot. And my question is, like, what is your maybe advice for that pivoting moment? How do you start feeling that this is the right time to pivot, or you need to grow, or maybe you need to change something? So I'd like to learn that.
Yes. Well, I can share my personal experience and relate that it is a series of difficult decisions. Now, but sometimes the universe delivers the answers because, I'll share a personal story. Is prior to me creating Calgary Spinal Decompression Center non-surgical spine clinic, so I was somewhat bored with practice, just regular practice, family practice, if you will, chiropractic. And I needed a challenge, but I didn't really know that I needed a challenge until I herniated a cervical disc, tobogganing with my kids. And so I was in a lot of pain. Guess what? This device, DRX 9000, is still the top equipment in the world for decompressive therapy. And so I thought, oh, could this be a coincidence? And then a friend of mine says, you gotta get into this decompression stuff. And I'm thinking, why? I'm thinking, and he didn't know I had a, severe arm pain, radiculopathy, really bad. I still sucked it up and practiced through that and got good advice and tried to get whatever treatment, but it wasn't the highest level of treatment. So I flew down to Tampa, Florida, to the manufacturer and said, okay, I'll look at this stuff. And I'm kind of thinking, it's too much money. It's too much investment. I got to change my practice. And so then I went down there and said, I guess I'm going to do this because I am going to be the first client on my own machine. And this is not the first time I heard this story. It's bizarre. I was just at a decompression conference in Dallas, the first time away in 3 years. And there was another doc that said, I bought this equipment because I wanted to be the first one because I hurt myself. It's a big piece of equipment, expensive piece of equipment. Why don't you just pay? Why don't you just pay and go get it somewhere? But they didn't have it anywhere else. I was going to be the first in Calgary to have this DRX 9000 equipment. So that's a scary place to be, I'll tell you, to invest a lot of money, have it shipped here and have all the setup, sign the leases and stuff, and then say, okay, now I'm going to change my practice. Not totally. So I created a practice within a practice. So I'll tell you, reach into your intuition and get coaching and get mentoring because they will help steer you to help you become successful. If they're good quality coaches and mentors, and then listen to your gut feeling. But sometimes it's mixed. It's like, oh, this is really difficult. This is going to be hard, and then I just, kept on working at it, created the branding, hired someone, did it right to do the proper branding and, build the websites and all the stuff. And now I'll tell you, the success is fast forward 15 years ago or 15 years forward, Dr. Google sends us so many patients. It's incredible. So thank you, Dr. Google. I acknowledge you online right here because he's my best, he or she, and she, I think it's a husband and wife team, Doctors Google. They refer me a ton of patients because we have tremendous reviews. You can check it out just for fun and giggles if you want, calgarysspinaldecompression.ca. I'm telling the truth here. We get rave reviews. And of course, the business trick is that whatever you're in, if Google reviews makes any difference, you got to ask for them in a never pay for them. That's unethical, but ask for them from genuine, satisfied clients. Yeah. And there's a little lesson that it's not the satisfied client that refers, it's the excited client that will refer to you. The client that is excited about what you've either done for them or the results that you've gotten for them. And it doesn't even have to be the complete result. Those are your best sources of referrals. And that's bar none, because a happy client does not necessarily refer. An excited client will refer. And that goes across any industry.
100%. Thank you, Alan. That was great. I think we're running out of time already. Oh my God, the time flew by so quickly. But I just want to say, like, what you just shared just has so much value. Thank you.
Thank you for inviting me to your show. I hope you as a listener gained a little bit of advice. Do you want me to share how people can follow me on Instagram or something so they can get a hold of me? Okay.
That'd be great. And I will also share all the information under my videos and my audio, so they can also follow. And if you want to share now, it's
real simple. It's at Dr. Alan, Alan Chong, Chong, Dr. Alan Chong. Find me on Instagram. Be happy to try to answer more of your questions. Who knows? Someone might want to be one of their mentors.
Yes. No. Wonderful. Thank you so much. Really appreciate that.
Thanks, Anna. Bye for now.
Thank you. Bye.